Hello, everybody. We're back again today with another episode of our classic album song ranking here with my partner, Sam St. John. This is number 18 in our series. We're doing Simon and Garfunkel, Bridge Over Troubled Water from 1970. Our guest today is Tom Williams, Tom Daniel Williams. Check his channel out. He's up to 97 subs. He's got to get over 100. So anybody out there, let's get him over that 100 mark and then watch his channel take off. He does great work. I love his content. So Tom, great to have you with us. This has been talked about for a couple months now. We're finally able to get you on and have a date where we can all hook up and hash this out. So welcome to the show.
Great to be. Thanks for having me. I'm really excited. One of my favorite albums of all time. So any excuse to talk about it is good with me.
Awesome. Sam, this is a good one. This is a nice diversion. We've been doing some harder rocks and classic rock. This is more folky, laid back kind of stuff. So it's good to have a mix of all genres. So I'm glad to be doing this one. Got 11 songs on here.
Yeah.
Good.
I was gonna say it kind of goes back to our wheelhouse of what we like to do, more folky, songwriter kind of stuff.
Yeah. We've done Dylan, obviously, and we've done the Stones and the Who and all the staples and classic rock, but it's nice to get some more mellow stuff here with Simon and Garfunkel. Favorites of mine. I wish they would have continued longer, but obviously the personalities, the egos, the little nitpicking stuff led them to a short career. This is their 5th album, by the way, their last studio album, all in the late 60s. This comes out in 1970. And they were red hot. I mean, they come off the soundtrack of The Graduate, which was a monster film at the time. And then Bookends follows, which was their biggest album to date. And Art Garfunkel goes off and he's getting movie deals, Catch-22 and Carnal Knowledge. He's filming in Mexico. And Paul writes some obvious songs here that there's some biting sarcasm. And there's the album cover. Whatever was going on in the dynamic of the two, that they couldn't continue the partnership. It's a shame for the fans because we lost out on some great music, although Paul continued in his solo career and put out some amazing stuff as well. So this is just a wonderful album, and we're going to dig into it. Tom, any comments before we dig in? Where did you discover it and grow up with it, that type of thing?
Yeah, very important album for me personally. I remember the first time, I'm not going to say which track because it's going to end quite near the top, but there was a track from this that my dad played to me. And he said, this is one of my favorite songs of all time. And it was my favorite song when I was 17 years old. And it blew my socks off. I absolutely loved it. And then I thought, I have to hear this album. And I wasn't even into listening to albums at that point. I was sort of around 14, 15 years old. And then, I checked out the album and I didn't regret it. Sooner or later, I had the CD, and then I had the CDs for Sounds of Silence and Bookends. And then I got the vinyl for Bridge Over Troubled Water and the vinyl for Bookends. So, very important to my discovery that I liked music this much, especially of this era. I'd say it's probably the first album from, the sort of the 60s, 70s that I really discovered that I loved. It was a real gateway for me into a lot of stuff like the Beatles and all that different, we talked about Bob Dylan and stuff. All that stuff was through Simon and Garfunkel for me. So it can't be understated how important this album was to my musical discovery.
Very good. How about you, Sam?
As an album, it's fairly new to me. However, 6 of the songs that are on this album were on a greatest hits compilation that I have that came out in the early 2000s. So I knew, well over half the album, and a few of the other songs that weren't, I just had heard, whether in movies or I heard cover versions that took me back to the Simon and Garfunkel original. Some of those being Keep the Customer Satisfied and Frank Lloyd Wright, So Long Frank Lloyd Wright. And, it's just, like Tom said, it's one of those albums that it can bring you to other artists. It's got influences. It's got some world music, which Paul Simon obviously took and ran with for the rest of his career up until his most recent album. I mean, Paul has always been somebody to experiment.
Yeah.
So I'm really interested to see how we all land on this.
Yeah, of course, I'm older than you guys by quite many years, and I grew up with a lot of this music on pop radio, and the movie with the Graduate and Bridge Over Troubled Water was a monster hit when it came out. It was all over the radio. Cecilia was a single, and The Boxer, and the title track as well, and El Condor Pasa. 4 singles from this one album, and they were all relatively successful. And what I like about Simon and Garfunkel is they took the lyricism and the songwriting ability of Bob Dylan with the melody of maybe Paul McCartney and the Beatles, and mixed them together and fused them. And this is what you have. They're dynamite music, very hugely popular. I don't know anybody that dislikes Simon and Garfunkel's music. It may not be your genre, but it's pleasant. It's just top of the line. So here we go. Let's get into this. We have 11 songs, like we mentioned. We're going to go Tom, Sam, myself, and we'll count it down 11 to 1. So, Tom, do the honors. What do you have at number 11?
Well, yeah, I just want to say I've never really thought about that sort of Dylan meets the Beatles connection, but that kind of probably explains why I love them so much, because it's kind of the best of both worlds of the pop and the really good songwriting.
Yeah, exactly.
My number 11. There's only one song on this album that I don't absolutely wholeheartedly love, and I just really like this song instead. And it's my number 11 is "Why Don't You Write Me," which I think a lot of my issue with this song is where it comes in the track listing. I think it's a bit I don't know. It might have worked better on the A side. It's a bit too bouncy and just it's I wish there's so many songs in that back half of the album that have so much substance and really poignant stuff, and then this one just kind of feels a bit throwaway in the context of this album anyway. It's still a really fun song. I can listen to it on its own, but if I was to ever skip a track on the album, it would probably be "Why Don't You Write Me," even though it's got some cool elements. It's quite catchy, but yeah, there's much better on this album for my money. So that's my number 11.
Interesting. Very good. What about you, Sam?
I agree with Tom. It's also my number 11. A lot of the same reasons, and I'm not somebody to skip an album track unless it's, a greatest hits where, it's just a bunch of things thrown together. That's not how the artist intended it. Yeah, it's one of those tracks where, like, it's kind of like, oh, we need another, we need a 10th original from you, Paul. Can you throw this one out? And they did. And it's got like that weird kind of like jungle sound to it. I mean, they kind of mentioned, talking about like being like I'm in the jungle is one of the lyrics, and it's kind of got that weird bass background singing from Art, which is not like him. But yeah, it's piggybacking on everything Tom said. It's just not one that stands out.
Yeah, I have it at 11 as well. So we all hit on that. It's kind of a misfire. Tom may have had the best point when he said it's the sequencing affects whether you like or dislike the song. The flow isn't right. I wouldn't call it exactly a reggae, but it's kind of that world music experiment that he's going through. The rhythm is weird. It could have been written towards Art. Again, he was in Mexico filming Catch-22. They mentioned a jungle, woe is me, gonna hang my body from the highest tree, kind of a depressing lyric and a throwaway lyric. Why don't you write me, send me a card? He might be missing his partner at that point, trying to lure him back to continue on, but who knows? I've also seen people interpret this as a person in Vietnam.
That's what I thought.
Yep. Yeah. Why don't you write me? That kind of long distance kind of relationship. So, but yeah, I agree. I'm number 11 right across the board for all of us.
Funny, we were just saying that we didn't think we would have much alignment, and we've all picked this
real quick
out of the gate.
Yeah. But yeah, as I said, after that, it gets really tough for me because I love all of these songs. So I guess my number 10 is El Condor Pasa, which might be a bit controversial. I like this song a lot. I think the instrumentation is really cool. Nice flutes on it, really pleasant melody. I just think, again, it's a really good song in its own right, but with the songs surrounding it, it kind of washes over me when I do a full listen of the album. I kind of I enjoy the vibe, the experience of it, and it's a really pleasant listen, but it's not one of those songs that really grabs me like some of the other ones on that A side. But you know, for most other bands, this would be one of their best songs. So I'm not complaining. I still think it's a great song, and I'm sure you guys are going to have it much higher because it was quite the popular track at the time, and I can see why. Like I said, very easy on the ears. Just a very well-made track, even if it doesn't excite me as much as some of the other songs. So El Condor Pasa is my number 10.
Well,
That's fair enough. What about you, Sam?
for me, it's the cover on the album, Bye Bye Love. It's a live track that they did, and obviously, you know, one of their biggest influences were the Everly Brothers. I mean, they started out in high school as Tom and Jerry, and you know, had the crew cuts and the Letterman jackets, and played, you know, the bowling alleys and things. So this is one of those songs that they sang as 15-year-olds. You know, and they even did it in their concert for Central Park, and they've done Wake Up Little Susie before. They've done a few other Everly songs, you know, unofficially live. So the Everlys are very, you know, when people talk about the greatest duos of all time, Simon and Garfunkel and the Everlys oftentimes are the, you know,
The two.
they're number 1 and 2 for a lot of people. They're the heavy hitters, and you know, I would take it as a compliment for Simon and Garfunkel to be compared. I'm sure they do. I'm sure Paul Simon and Art Garfunkel still consider that a high honor and don't feel themselves worthy. But it's a fine cover. It's just very hard to warrant putting that higher when you have a songwriter like Paul Simon. And really, at this point, from 9 down, it was difficult. So for now, the cover is number 10, Bye Bye Love.
I have it a little bit higher. The one song that falls flat for me, you guys may really like it. I don't know. It's So Long, Frank Lloyd Wright. This is number 10 for me. To use one of Tom's expressions, it just doesn't grab me. It doesn't pull me in. It's very light arrangement. Flute solo's nice. The congas come in. But obviously he's, again, pointing a finger at Art Garfunkel, in my opinion. Art wanted to be an architect. That was, you know, one of his goals in life. And this is like a veiled shot at Art. It's possible he was already planning to move on without him. So Long, Frank Lloyd Wright. And you can hear in the vocal, if you listen really deep enough, there's a background vocal. It says, "So long already, Artie, so long," at the very end of the song. So I think he's made his decision that he's moving on without him for whatever reason. I would love to know the inner dynamic of what happened, why they had to split up, why they couldn't just have a working arrangement and not necessarily be best of friends, because they had it going on. I mean, but this song doesn't work as well as the other songs in front of it for me. I'd be interested to see when it comes up on your list what you have to say about it, but it's going to be number 10 for me.
Wow.
Well, you won't have to wait too long because it's my number 9. And similar thoughts to El Condor Pasa for me. Again, really pretty song, really lush strings on it. I think what separates it from El Condor Pasa for me, just by that much, is I think it's slightly lyrically stronger. I think the sort of the storytelling that's going on, like you were saying, you can interpret it as a tribute to Frank Lloyd Wright, or you can interpret it as like a jab at Art Garfunkel, which I kind of like that double meaning of the song. It's not necessarily one of the melodies that gets stuck in my head, but contrastingly to Why Don't You Write Me, I think this works perfectly in the sequencing. I think it flows perfectly where it is on the album. Yeah, great listen, especially in the album context. Cool lyrics, like the whole album, the arrangements are gorgeous. Every performance, whether it's the vocals or the instruments, are just spot on. But yeah, just echoing your thoughts, there's just a lot of other songs. When you got someone like Paul Simon writing such amazing tunes, it's hard to compete. So that's my number 9, So Long, Frank Lloyd Wright.
Cool.
Number 9 for me is the closing track, Song for the Asking, which I like it a lot. It's a great ending to the album, kind of, a tag at the end. It's a minute and a half long. I love how the guitar kind of goes, and when he says, thinking it over, I've been sad. Just Paul Simon is very underappreciated as a guitarist, and there's a great clip. I don't know if either of you have seen it, of Paul Simon on the Dick Cavett show, where he's talking about writing the song Still Crazy After All These Years, which obviously was a couple years after this album, but just talking about the theory behind why he chooses the notes that he chooses to play. Absolutely brilliant to see it at its earliest stage. He's not even finished with the song yet. He gets to a point, he says, that's where I'm stumped. It's just before he gets to the part about 4 a.m, tapped out. So with that being said, it's great guitar playing. Very simple melody by Paul Simon. Again, nice little tag at the end of the album. This is my tune for the taking. Take it, don't turn away. I've been waiting all my life. Just really simple little stanzas. Beautiful. But again, I think because of the shortness of it, I couldn't warrant putting it any higher than the number 9. So
Yep, my number 9 is the cover, Bye Bye Love, Everly Brothers classic. Happens to be the first concert they recorded after Art came back from his Mexico trip in Ames, Iowa. Live recording, lots of hand clapping and audience participation. Definitely moves along well. It's perfect to have an Everly Brothers song on this album, because they are 1 and 2, either way, the best duos in the history of modern music. I don't even know that 3 is really anywhere close by as far as a duo, but they stand at the top for me. So it's cool that they honored the Everly Brothers by covering one of their tunes, and they do it well. I believe they do the song as well on the Live in Central Park concert, which was cool too, to see it performed live. But this is my number 9, and it's well done. So everything in front of it's going to be top notch.
I'm going to keep echoing you guys, because my number 8 is Bye Bye Love. I think this is really perfect. I think both these guys knew that the writing was on the wall in terms of their time together as a duo. And to end with a live cover of one of their idols leading into Song for the Asking, which is just this really poignant way to wrap up not just the album, but their career together. I think that's just a perfect choice. I love the live setting, like you were saying, the audience participation. And it's not the definitive version of the song, but to me it is, because it's the one I've heard the most.
Cool.
But I would never argue that it's the version you have to hear, because that would be ridiculous. But it's I've always really enjoyed it, and a lot of the times I will just listen to Bye Bye Love and Song for the Asking back to back, because I think as one song it flows together really nicely, and that sort of upbeat vibe of this song contrasted with the very poignant nature of the song straight after it. So Bye Bye Love is my number 8. Very, very strong cover, and works really well in the flow of the album.
Number 8, you've already mentioned it, So Long Frank Lloyd Wright. Number 8 and number 7 were, I closed my eyes and point, and that's where it was going to land. I think over time this might even make its way further up the ladder for me, just because I think it's a beautiful song. I love the very, almost like bossa nova sounding guitar picking, where they say, the architects may come and architects may go. Just that plum, 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 plum. As a guitarist, I love hearing that. And like I mentioned in our intro, this is one that I heard when I fully listened to the song. I may have heard it before, but when I fully listened to the song, it was through a cover of a guy that I follow on YouTube named Josh Turner, not the country singer, another guy about my age, who's just brilliant on guitar. And he did a version of this, because I believe I think he's played Paul Simon before, like in a stage production or something like that. But he's just a killer musician, and I was like, that's a really good song. And so obviously I went back to listen to Simon and Garfunkel, because I love them, and I'm like, it's a great song. And y'all have all mentioned it about Art Garfunkel, and I didn't know that about the little fade out at the end with the so long already, because I don't know the song as well. So but anyway, it's beautiful music. It's great vocals by Art Garfunkel. So I mean, Art Garfunkel has to be one of the best tenor vocalists of all time. I mean, I think when I think of like how angels would sound singing, it's Art Garfunkel. I've said that my whole life. So
There's no doubt, even on some of his solo work, I mean, they don't get the accolades that Paul's albums do, but quite the vocalist, no question about it. My number 8 is one we haven't heard yet, so I have this lower than you guys, obviously, and that's Baby Driver. Great pop song about sexual exploration. And of course, in rock and roll, they're always using cars and that type of imagery, wheels and engines, and from the Beach Boys to Bruce Springsteen, all those guys do the same thing. That metaphor of, hop in my car and whatever, you can take it the way you want. Young people discovering each other's bodies. I like the lyrics here. My daddy got a big promotion. My mama got a raise in pay. There's no one home. We're all alone. Come into my room and play. And, it's just that kind of thing. And I'm not talking about your pigtails. I'm talking about your sex appeal. I wonder how your engines feel. Very self-explanatory. Very early rock and roll kind of vibe to it. And very catchy. So it's going to be number 8 for me on my list.
Well, Rich and I keep being that close to syncing up, because mine 7 is Baby Driver.
There you go.
Which used very well at the end of the film of the same name. And I think what's interesting, you're saying about the rock and roll influence, it's like, in theory, Paul Simon singing a song like this shouldn't work, and it should kind of fall flat on its face. Kind of like how I think about the 2 really political tracks on the Beach Boys' Surf's Up, where it's like, why are you doing songs like that? That's not what the Beach Boys should be doing.
Don't go near the water, Tom.
Yeah, well, yeah. And it just works because he's such a great songwriter. And even if his voice isn't the perfect match for something like this kind of track, he really sells it. It's a really upbeat song, really well written. There's about 3 different hooks in the song that get stuck in your head. And I have a lot of great memories of this song of the last few years, playing this in the car and it's just an instant mood lifter, which a lot of their music is, which of course they have a lot of music that's quite dark as well, which is kind of the brilliant duality of their music, that they can have this amazing upbeat pop song and, some more heartbreaking stuff also on the album. And I just think it's a great song. And again, I can say this for almost any song from most artists, this would be considered among their best work. But if I was doing a top 20 Simon Garfunkel list, would this make the list? Possibly, maybe not. So I think it's a really strong song, and comes in at number 7 for me.
Good.
My number 7 is Keep the Customer Satisfied. And like I said, it was flipping that one back and forth with So Long Frank Lloyd Wright, because I love them both equally, honestly. So this is number 7 and number only. But it's the same as Frank Lloyd Wright for me. In a completely different style. I mean, you have like the big, kind of wall of sound behind it, where they say, I get slander, bound, liable, hear words I never heard in the Bible, which is a great line. I heard words I never heard in the Bible, and I'm one step ahead of the shoe shine. It's just great about, getting ahead, just kind of breaking even, like Jerry Seinfeld talks about, getting your finger pointed at you. And it's one of those things, it could be about, why Simon and Garfunkel kept arguing their whole career. Like, every time that their names are brought up, they were talking about, Simon and Art, and Garfunkel are breaking up again. And Simon and Garfunkel, one of the few groups that broke up before their career even started. Like, they had broken up before that first album came out. And then I think they broke up after the first album came out. So, I mean, they were hot and cold during all 5 albums. They're still hot and cold at 80 plus years old, which is ridiculous. Especially since they grew up together and were singing when they were, preteens. So with all that being said, I love the song. Again, that whole, kind of noisy sound it has. It's one of the louder tracks on the album, and I think that's probably why I like it. It really it keeps you, not getting bored in the album because it's so different. So it's my number 7.
Yeah, I have it a couple notches higher. I like it a lot too. My
Yeah.
number 7 is, again, the first one, the first time we're hearing this, so you guys obviously are gonna put it higher on the list. The Only Living Boy in New York is my number 7. I know this is a well-respected tune about loneliness and feeling abandoned maybe by a friend, and he's referring to the person he's talking about as Tom in the lyrics, and obviously that's Art, because they were Tom and Jerry. So this is a personal song again while he's away doing his thing, making a film career. Maybe Paul was jealous that Art was getting attention and going to be on screen, and this, I don't know, but Tom, half the time we're gone, we don't know where. I love the ahs and the melodic tone of it. There's some interesting production. There's echoes involved as well. It's well put together, but I just like the 6 in front of it much more. So it's solid at number 7 for me on my list here.
Wow.
I beg to differ on your interpretation of the song because I always thought he was talking to me, not Art Garfunkel, but that's okay. So my number 6 is going to be, I think both of you guys mentioned this, I might be wrong, Song for the Asking, which is the closing track. Yeah, it's like 1 minute 30 seconds. As I mentioned before, it's a really poignant way to end the album and works so well coming after Bye Bye Love. Really nice lyrics on this one as well. Just amazing guitar playing on this, really subtle stuff that really just carries the song through to the end. It's almost like a lullaby in a lot of ways. Yeah, I mean, there's not much to say because it's only 1 minute 30 seconds, but it uses every second perfectly. If it was any longer, it might drag on a little bit, but for what it has to say, it says it, and then it's almost like as the audience are all leaving, it's just Paul's down his guitar after the live show. So that's always how I viewed it anyway. My number 6 is Song for the Asking. Really, really, really love it.
Number 6 for me is probably the biggest hit up to this point in terms of our ranking. It's the song Cecilia. So I've got that kind of right there in the middle ish of the album, and I love this song. So many sounds to it, so many percussive instruments. There's like the bongos at the beginning and the claps. Art's harmony on it's fantastic. Just the whole song. It's one of those songs about kind of getting cheated on by this girl Cecilia. I come home to wash my face. When I come back to bed, someone's taking my place. That kind of thing. And again, kind of like Rich was talking about the Only Living Boy in New York. It's just some of the background singing of it. Like the whoa 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 whoa.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And then with the surprise ending of jubilation, she loves me again. It's just I love how their voices get even like higher during that part. Just fun song. There's no there's a reason it was a radio hit. I mean, it has all those elements of clapping along, and I would have loved to have seen this live. I've seen Paul Simon live before, but obviously never Simon and Garfunkel. But I can imagine this would have been a fun song for the crowd to get involved in with the clapping and the singing of the refrain. So it's number 6 for me, but I mean, at this point, these songs are all so good.
Yeah, my number 6 is Song for the Asking. I hadn't done it yet. This is a really great way to end the album. That's why it's number 6. This is probably the most underrated song on the album for me. Short and sweet, a simple little closer, but it says so much in 1.5 minutes. It's lovely, performed beautifully, the guitar work. You could even say it's possibly burying the hatchet with Art in a way, reconciliation, asking for another chance. In this lyric here, thinking it over, I'd be more than glad to change my ways for the asking. It's very mellow and melodic, and for the time being, he's closing the chapter on the duo, but leaving the door open a little bit. So, and a nice vocal here as well. I really enjoy it. So that's my number 6.
Nice. Yeah. Top five. I would say, even though I've said I love all these songs, the top five is like another step up for me into just all time greatness. My number five is going to be Cecilia, which probably the catchiest song on the album, the one that gets the most stuck in my head. Love the percussion, just fantastic, really upbeat. I'm glad you mentioned the jubilation part at the end. That's just, it's almost makes you want to start the song again from the start because it's such a great moment when it comes in the song. And yeah, maybe not as much substance lyrically as some of the other ones. And I don't know, these top five, it's like splitting hairs really. And I can totally see why this is arguably the most well-known song on the album because it is amazing. And as far as, you know, late 60s, early 70s pop goes, it doesn't really get much better than this song for me. So yeah, my number five is Cecilia, basically 1E. So
Number five for me, y'all have both mentioned it, is Baby Driver. Again, one of those songs I came upon later in life, just in the last couple of years. And to go back to Paul Simon's guitar playing, the playing on this song is absolutely unbelievable how complicated it is with the guitar bending, and because they're going between the bending, like the individual notes and then the strums of, you know, getting the rhythm part of it. Just he's doing so much with his fingers. I love the harmony at the beginning. Well, the whole song, the whole album is a harmony album, but they kind of are singing in unison at the beginning, you know, where they say, "My daddy was a regular bass man," like that. And then when they hit that part about, you know, hit the road and I'm gone, what's my number? And then I love the back end, like you said, the shoop up. It's very, very 1950s, that part, the early rock and roll, the, you know, wee, yep. Very like, sounds like it could be like the Tokens or, you know, any of those groups that were, you know, under the street light, kind of on the corner sounding songs. Just a great song. Again, it's like, I think Tom mentioned, it's not a Paul Simon theme that he covers much. He's very introspective. He doesn't always sing about, you know, but the popular songs were at the time about, you know, girls, cars, you know, like what the Beach Boys were doing, or, you know, early Beatles or whatever it might be. So it's kind of like Paul saying, like, you know, I can let loose a little bit too. So is it deep? No, but it's a fun song, and it's one that, again, I wish I could have heard it live at some point. So it cracked the top five for me.
Yeah, it's a good one. My number five is Keep the Customer Satisfied. Upbeat tune. My interpretation is straightforward. Musician coming off the road, glad to be home, dealing with all the critics and the fans, and creating new material to keep everyone satisfied. I mean, he's getting heckled, and then not necessarily heckled, but there's always questions about what are you going to do next, and why don't you go back to that and this and that. Everywhere I go, I get slandered, I get libeled, hear words I never heard in the Bible. I'm cursing and whatever you want to interpret that as. Mm-hmm. The harmonies here are killer. They remind me of the Hollies in a way. And then the horns come in at the end. Just fantastic, well produced, well laid out and arranged. It narrowly beat out Song for the Asking for my 5 position to get into the top 5. And that's what I do on these. I want to do the top 5, the best songs, and then the others fill in where they will. But great tune. And it was covered by Gary Puckett in the Union Gap, another late 60s pop group. Had a minor hit. It cracked the top 100, but it really didn't go anywhere on the charts for Gary Puckett. All right.
Yep. So my number 4, I can't say I'm that surprised that I'm the first one bringing this song up, because it is often considered their best song, and it is the title track, Bridge Over Troubled Water. Just an all-time classic song for me, probably Art Garfunkel's finest moment. And I know I'm not alone in saying that. I'm pretty sure almost everybody who has heard the song would say that. Piano playing fits the song perfectly. It's never too much. It's very understated. And then I just love the sail on moment towards the end, and then the I'll be right behind. That's just hits me, you know, it's such a beautiful song about friendship that is so easy to relate to. And all the best songwriters can write about very specific moments in time, very specific events, but the listener is able to relate them to something in their life. That's how I see it. And Paul Simon was amazing at that. So many songs on this album I relate to and have related to in various different points in my life. And this is one of them for sure. It's really touching. And it's kind of, I don't know, it kind of, as much as there's a lot of, there's a lot of bitterness between them, this is kind of the song that reminds you, they'll still be friends for as long as they live, even if there is a lot of tension between them. And that's what I love about it. And as an opener, I think it works perfectly. There was a time where I wasn't sure about it as an opener because it's quite grand straight away. It's sort of, you just get chucked straight in. But that's what I like about it now, is that it sort of takes no prisoners, and perhaps the most emotionally hard-hitting song of the album is the opening track, which is quite unusual, but I think it works really well for this one. And I can't really say much else about it other than I think it's a perfect song, and there's just 3 more that I like more on the album.
Yeah, very good.
Number 4 for me is the I guess what you could call the world music of the album, El Condor Pasa. Absolutely love this song. It's based, the tune is based off of a Peruvian folk song. So Simon just added some English lyrics to it. They even have Peruvian musicians on it, whereas like a lot of the other songs have the Wrecking Crew playing on it. Again, you mentioned the flute earlier. It just adds to the whole, feeling like you're in South America. One of those songs, I'd rather do this than this. I'd rather be this than this. I love the bridge sung by Art, where, he's the whole part about, away, I'd rather sail away like a swan that's here and gone. And it was funny, in one of my Spanish classes in college, it was a Latin American class. We started class and the professor he said we were learning about Peru, and he played that song. He played the Simon Garfunkel version, and I was about the only one in the class that knew what it was, at 19 years old, almost 10 years ago. So it's just, I've always loved it. It's one that I've played on guitar a few times just to kind of play with it. And I love that beginning, that slow, the do 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 do. Just, I love it. It's a great song. And again, it's one of those songs that shows where Paul Simon was heading with that first official debut that he had, and then moving forward all the way up to the present day.
Yeah, it's my number 4 as well, El Condor Pasa. Love it. You gave the background, the Peruvian song, written in 1913, way back, and Simon added the English lyrics. Beautiful song. Everything about it, the translation, the condor passes, El Condor Pasa. And you can interpret it as freedom or just changing, evolution, growth, whatever word you want to use. Time moves on. I mean, it's just that freedom of the condor passing through the mountains, maybe. It's just a beautiful image, and the music fits it perfectly. Say some other interpretations, not being stuck, not being willing to stand put, taking control of your life. The metaphors are cool. I'd rather be a sparrow than a snail, a hammer than a nail. Goes on and on. Beautiful song. Love it. Number 4 for me.
Feel bad for having it so low now. But,
You should, Tom.
Yeah, no, I feel awful. Yeah, I should probably just leave and let you guys go.
Rich has that authority. He can do
it.
My number 3 is going to be one that Rich already mentioned, which is The Only Living Boy in New York. Just an amazing song. Again, lyrics absolutely spot on, harmonies completely faultless. I can't remember where I read this, but a while ago I read that the big drums that come in were inspired by the Beatles' Long, Long, Long from the White Album, which kind of makes sense if you think about it that way. And, in a lot of ways, I have a lot of an emotional attachment to this song, not just because Tom is in the song, but also because it's a song that, you know, when my friends would get together and you know, play some songs when we go camping or something, we had a few in rotation, and Don't Let Me Down by the Beatles was one of them. Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd was another one of them, and this was another one, The Only Boy in New York. So I have a lot of fond memories of singing this with friends and all of us sort of joining in for the big moments of the song. And yeah, I just think it's a real classic. You know, I think it's one of those where it's sort of more critically acclaimed than it was a massive hit. I don't know, you could probably, right. It wasn't as big as like The Boxer or Cecilia, but I think it deserved to be. I think it's a really great song. It's paced brilliantly, and yeah, just so much great imagery in the lyrics. Number 3 could be number 1 on another day, but today it's number 3. So I'm gonna have to live with that.
Very good.
Number 3 for me is the title track, Bridge Over Troubled Water. It was neat when I saw Paul Simon do, it was the Homeward Bound tour, which was his last major tour. Now he just does kind of one-off events. He doesn't tour anymore. But he mentioned that this was always a song that he knows that he wrote it, but he never felt that he owned it, because like Tom mentioned, it was Art's shining moment of his career. I think it's still the song that Art closes his shows with, even in his 80s. And so when Simon was about to sing it, because he did it, he said, you know, I kind of feel now that I'm singing it, that I'm kind of taking a piece of it back, you know, that I was never able to have. And he played it. He had like a string quartet or a quintet playing with him. It was really, really a beautiful moment during the show, where he was standing up and the quartet was around him with the cellos and the violins. So, I mean, what can you say? It's an absolutely perfect song. Nothing at all wrong with it. The whole line about, you know, sailing on Silver Girl, like watching the plane up in the sky, you know, taking off, and there's just so much to unpack with the song. And you could do essays on the song, and it's been covered by everybody from Elvis to Johnny Cash. You know, it's one of those songs that it's like it's always been there, you know, and you can never see it going away. So I could talk a long time about it because I love it, and it would definitely be in my top 10 favorite Simon Garfunkel songs. I mean, no question. So
yeah, great one. My number 3 is Cecilia. You guys both talked about it. The rhythm, that percussion, it grabs you right from the beginning. And why the name Cecilia? Evidently, Paul Simon said it refers to Saint Cecilia, the patron saint of music, which I didn't know. Very catchy chorus. I'm down on my knees. I'm begging you, please, to come home. I love that part, you know, about a cheating girlfriend. He doesn't trust her, you know, that kind of thing. And Sam gave the line about making love in the afternoon with Cecilia up in my bedroom. I got up to wash my face. When I come back to bed, someone's taken my place. It's just a brutal lyric, but so catchy and so melodic at the same time. It really works well. You're shaking you're breaking my heart. You're shaking my confidence daily. That kind of thing. He's, you know, losing self-esteem because of the relationship, and at the same, and that jubilation line, the way it seems like it goes on forever. One word, jubilation. You know, just beautifully worked into the lyrics and the harmony here. So number 3 was a close call without Condor Pasa. I love them pretty much equally as the 2 or the 3 and 4 tracks, but the 2 big ones for me are coming next. So we'll see what they are.
Yeah. I wasn't being rude by pulling out my phone, by the way. I was making sure I had the lyrics out for this one because I didn't want to just fumble around. Because my number 2 is The Boxer. And to me, it is one of the greatest songs of all time lyrically. Just picking out a couple of my favorite lines. I've squandered my resistance for a pocket full of mumbles, such are promises. I think that's just incredible songwriting. And also laying low, seeking out the poorer quarters where the ragged people go, looking for the places only they would know. And it's just that somehow how he sings the song and the way each verse flows. you can really focus in on the lyrics, but it's not like, you know, you're listening to him tell a story. It's a really melodic, really beautiful song in its own right, and it isn't just all about the lyrics, but they are there to be analyzed if you really want to. The production on the whole album is fantastic, as I mentioned, but this is really a highlight of that. And it was a really big song for them, and rightly so. It's probably in my top 3 Simon and Garfunkel songs, and the second best on this album. And you know, it wasn't the first song I heard on this album, because that was my number 1. And you know, I think for a lot of people it was the first song they heard from this album. And I think that's quite right, because it is one of the best things on this album. It'll draw a lot of people in because, yeah, it's got everything you could want from a Simon and Garfunkel song. Amazing storytelling, great sort of honest lyrics with a lot of emotion, but also great imagery. And yeah, just a really great listen. The Boxer is my number 2, and again, could be number 1 on another day, but it isn't today.
Very good.
Number 2 for me. It hurt me that you both had it so far back. It's The Only Living Boy in New York. Absolutely love this song. The whole, you know, the in the background is being held. And then it kind of breaks into the, you know, half of the time we're gone, we don't know where, we don't know when. I love how he repeats also the line about, you know, I get the news I need on the weather report. I can gather all the news I need on the weather report. It's like, you know, why do I need to watch anything else? You know, the weather's all I need to know. I don't need to know about anything else. I wish I could say more about it. It's just, I love the sound of it. I love the harmonies, the high singing from Art Garfunkel. Just it's almost like it's off the mic and they've overdubbed it to sound choral, where it's so many different, you know, voices singing the same note is what it sounds like to me. Just a masterpiece, and it's amazing how many masterpieces are on this album. It shows that Paul Simon wasn't just about writing songs with 3 chords. You know, like the other folk singers of the era, he was doing true craftsmanship, and the song is no exception. So it's number 2 for me.
High praise. My
Yeah.
number 2 is the title track, Bridge Over Troubled Water. On any other album, it would be number 1. But again, you guys both mentioned Art Garfunkel's highlight of his career, flat out. It's never been better. The piano, killer. The strings, amazing. Everything you want to, any superlative you want to throw at. The Wrecking Crew's in here. It's got that wall of sound production too. It's just it is their signature song, although it's not my favorite song. When you think of Simon and Garfunkel, you're thinking either Sound of Silence or Bridge of Troubled Water. Those are the 2
Yep.
that are their signature songs. When Paul Simon dies, it'll say Bridge Over Troubled Water, Sound of Silence. Those are the 2 that are mainly known for. Just it builds well instrumentally too. I like Art hitting every note perfectly. It swept the Grammys in 1970, album, song of the year. It's inspiring, hopeful. You can take out of what you want. The lyrics are superb. So it's just, you guys covered it. So it's just a masterpiece. My number 2.
And now is when I have to do a lot of defending of my number 1 choice, because my number 1 is Keep the Customer Satisfied, which is not a very traditional choice, but I sort of hinted at it earlier. This is the first song I heard, not only from this album, but the first song that I made a point of listening to from this entire era of, you know, the late 60s and into the 70s, kind of pop, rock, folk, whatever you want to categorize that whole thing, classic rock, I don't know. But I remember from the first time I heard it, I was like, wow, this is a nice upbeat song. And then those trumpets came in, and it sounds like the people playing those trumpets are about to burst. It's like they are so high pitched and still sound amazing. Like, it just completely blew my mind when I first heard it. And since then, it's been in constant rotation for the past, 7 years of my life. Whenever I put it on, it's an instant mood lifter. Sure, it doesn't have the depth of some of the other songs on the album lyrically, But I ranked these in how likely I was to listen to them at the end of the day, and how highly I thought of them personally. This isn't necessarily if I was saying, you got to listen to Bridge Over Troubled Water. Here's Keep the Customer Satisfied to give you a good idea of what that album's all about. I'd probably pick something else. But for me personally, and for my experience with music, this is such a crucial track. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about it. It's just every time I listen to it, I feel I like it even more, even though I've heard it like hundreds and hundreds of times by now. And I suppose people won't particularly like it as a first choice, but you know, for sentimental reasons, again, it really helped me get into this sort of classic era of music. And yeah, I love every second of it, and I want to listen to it right now. So
you defended it well. That's your choice. It's your list. So cool. I like it. All right, Sam, number one.
Well, it looks like we're together on this, Rich.
I'm surprised, but I'm happy about it. Very cool.
Yeah, The Boxer. It's one of those early finger picking songs that I tried on guitar. That do 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 at the beginning, and then it's just the almost like the Johnny Cash doom 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 doom, just that time signature. I mean, what can you say about the song? It's just it builds so well. Tom mentioned some of the poetic lyrics in it earlier. The huge sound of the chain of the drums, because that's Hal Blaine playing a massive chain, from what I understand, to get that boof sound. And then just at the end, how they keep saying la la la, and it just keeps going longer than it has the other few times they've already incorporated that into the lyrics. Then they talk about it takes a long time for it to finally get to the point about the boxer. Every glove that laid him down or cut him till he cried out in his anger and his shame, I'm leaving, but the fighter still remains. I'm just imagining some like old guy who he never really made it. He was always kind of playing the small bars and the clubs, but he never had his moment. It's so well written. I know it's often voted in terms of like sports songs, like the greatest sports song ever written, but again, it's not really about a boxer. It's about so much. And again, it's one of those songs like you mentioned, Rich, Sound of Silence, Bridge Over Troubled Water, The Boxer. It's just everybody knows the song, even if they don't know about the name, because he barely says the word boxer in the song. I mean, I think it's absolutely phenomenal. I think it's a perfect collaboration between the two of them. Paul Simon is still doing it. He just did it at the Newport Folk Festival with a bunch of people that are in their 30s and their 20s. Guys like Lucas Nelson and Brandy Carlisle, Nathaniel Rateliff, Margot Price, like people like that are looking at Paul Simon as one of these last stalwarts of the folk generation. Singing that song, and he's still getting a powerful impact from it. It's just an absolute masterpiece of a song. So it's number one. Yeah,
you really stole my thunder here.
That's what I try to do on the show.
I have pretty much everything you said written down here. It's an absolute masterpiece of a song. Poetic, melodic, the guitar picking. It's autobiographical in nature too, because Simon evidently, I think, is an introvert, a lot like myself. Anybody that's been through loneliness, not necessarily the poverty he's talking about, but maybe stuck in a situation where, they're kind of alone with their thoughts. You can use that as the metaphor of the boxer in the ring. He's in the ring and it's, do or die kind of thing. And you read the lyrics. In the clearing stands a boxer and a fighter by his trade, and he carries the reminder of every glove that laid him out or cut him till he cried out. In his anger and his shame, I am leaving, but the fighter still remains. So he's going to get through it, these circumstances, but it's just one of them strength. You build from within, you against the world kind of mentality. That's the way I look at it anyway. And it's very uplifting, even though it's a dour subject at times. I love the flute and the piccolo and the la 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 la. That refrain is cool as hell as well. The acoustic guitar playing is absolutely superb. It's my favorite Simon and Garfunkel song, period, let alone this album. So it was going to be number one from the beginning. I don't know what else I can say about it. It's just one that I listen to quite a bit. I think there's a lot in it. And, as much as I like Bob Dylan and his lyricism, he's always kind of cryptic. You're not exactly sure where he's coming from. With Paul Simon, he's using regular words and situations that you can figure them out real quick, and whether they apply or not. He's not using all these historical characters and animals and this and stuff that Dylan's using to get his point across, and you're trying to figure it out. Dylan likes that guessing game of what am I really writing about? It's just the interpretation of the listener. With Paul Simon, he's storytelling is what he's doing, and he does it better than almost anybody. So great song here. Really enjoy it.
Points from me. That was my number 2 and your guys' number 1. So
yeah, it's
a collected winner.
I mean, it's unfair really to have to rank the Boxer above Bridge Over Troubled Water because it's completely unfair, but that's what we do.
Yeah.
So very cool. Now we're going to give the album an overall score like we like to do. 1 being negligible, 5 mediocre, 10 being a masterpiece, perfect, whatever. Tom, what do you have?
Take a wild guess.
I know. It's your favorite album.
We did Rumors last time and I gave that a 10. And I think this is better than Rumors, so 10. It's probably my top 5 or 6 albums of all time. It's one of my, I just love it so much. And I promise I'm not that easy with 10s. It's just you guys have invited me on for 2 perfect.
We're hitting on the big album, so
Yeah.
you got to be honest about it. What do you have, Sam?
It's a 9 for me because of just number 10 and number 11 on my list. Bring it down just a smidge. Why Don't You Write Me? I don't see the need for it on the album. And I'm actually fairly comfortable with covers on albums by songwriters. I mean, there are Beatles covers that I loved, on their albums that are higher than sometimes half the album. Right. So, it's not because it's a cover, but I think, Paul Simon had something else in him that he might have been saving. So with that being said, with those 2 songs, it's a 9.
Yeah, I'm going to go with a 9 also. I was going to go 8.75, but I have to give it a 9. It's that good. The quality of the better songs elevates it. It can't be a 10 for me because I just don't like those bottom 2 songs that much. So I have to be honest and give it a solid 9, although you could argue higher. I mean, the quality of that songwriting is just beyond reproach. I mean, Paul Simon to me is one of the best. I hate to repeat myself, but along with Dylan and Joni Mitchell and Jackson Browne, Paul Simon's in my Mount Rushmore of top songwriters of all time. He easily would be at that level. And then it falls off after that to the Tom Waitses and the Neil Youngs and the Bruce Springsteens and whoever else you want to mention. But John Prine, of course, a great songwriter. There's so many great ones that we could do it. We should do Sam. We should do a top 20 or 25 songwriters or lyricists or whatever.
Yep.
That would be a fun one just to see where they stack up.
Yeah, maybe between videos.
Yeah, one of these days after you get your top 100 out there.
Yeah, right.
If that happens. Anyway, we're going to wrap this up. We want to thank Tom Williams for coming on. Go over and subscribe to him. The link will be below. Tom Daniel Williams. Let's get him over 100, and there should be no problem at all. His content is great. He has great delivery. He has a guest or 2 on his show. I'll be glad to come over and do another video with him if we come up with a good subject that I can talk about. So Sam St. John, check his channel out as well. Quality material, part of the Cosmic Torpedoes. We look forward to the day where they can do another couple of tunes for us. So for Tom and Sam, this is Rich. Thanks for tuning in. Leave some comments. We'll see you next time. Bye.